that 9/11 prediction that really stood out? I mean, even when you first put it on paper, is there anything about it that really stood out to you and really made you sit up and take notice?
It was the issue of the way in which it occurred. You have to understand that when the data is presented to me for the interpretation, it goes in a form of a virtual aquarium, if you will, filled with lots of millions, in fact, of colored little dots. So it's kind of like a giant aquarium filled with self-illuminated little candies. And I noticed over the course of that year and doing that first report there that the lights were all congregating around a specific set of circumstances in these larger areas that I had come to think of as being discrete entities. So it's kind of as though the middles of all of these giant multicolored jellyfish were all starting to glow at the same time. That got my attention, and that's what I called the very first tipping point, because the indication was after I moved model space past this event, everything changed radically. And it threw me off because I was only 4 or 5 years into the work at that point, and I didn't know if what I was looking at was some kind of a large breakdown in my software, and was beating myself about the head and so on, because it just made no sense that after a particular event, everything would suddenly reorganize itself. And well, now we know it actually worked out that way. And so that was my first experience with what I call tipping points.
You know, on the internet, there are folks that, all kinds of folks keeping score on the WebBot predictions. The predictions that turn out to be accurate, they call them hits. The ones that don't turn out to be accurate, they call it misses. What would you say is the percentage of hits, the ones that turn out to be accurate?
Well, see, that's a screwy way for me to look at it, simply because I don't have the same field of reference as most humans. So let me qualify that. Most humans are taught to believe in something called odds or statistics. And under these circumstances, they would say that there might be a 1 in 4 chance on any given flip of a coin that you would get either heads or tails. In my understanding of universe, it is not deterministic by any
Aaron Smith Show. My guest this evening is Clif of the WebBot Project. Clif, you were talking about the, I believe you said it was the Columbia explosion. But you make a good point in that we do speak about these spacecraft in maritime terminology very often. We call it a ship. But in addition to that, we hear, and I don't know that it's true, although I suspect it is, that the United States has a secret space fleet, and that it is run by the U.S. Navy. So, if that's true, then...
there's all of those sorts of things, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the issue for that, though, I mean, I've actually got a pair of these third-generation night vision goggles, and I've seen the stuff out there floating around in near-Earth orbit that are definitely under the control of intelligence. They're driving around, making turns, and if they're not controlled by terrestrial humans, then it begs the question of who they are controlled by.
Yeah.
But getting back to your statement there about the U.S. Navy controlling it, I think we need to start broadening our thinking here, because having read Joseph Farrell and Richard Dolan's works on the national security state, it's global now. So the secret government in the U.S. is cooperating with the secret government of, the English or the Belgians or something, and we may be in the driver's seat nominally. But I think we do need to look at this as a larger issue. I don't think of it in terms of the U.S. controlling the secret space fleet, because they would have had to have had huge amounts of money from the whole planet in order to put this together. And therefore it's planetary.
All right, tell you what I want to do. I agree with you. Tell you what I want to do. In terms of accuracy, hits or misses, I got you to comment on that.
I want to we're better than chance, but beyond that, it's a matter of somebody's interpretation.
Okay, fair enough. Here's what I want to do. I took 3 comments off of a forum. There were positive comments as well. These were somewhat negative. And I want to get your response to them, and I have a response to at least one of them. It says, this one says, personally, I don't think it can, talking about the WebBot, I don't think it can predict any real-world events, since all it does is compile user-submitted data on the Internet. It has failed many predictions, and the small handful it supposedly was successful about are very vague at best, and can only be verified through hindsight, similar to Nostradamus predictions. Okay, let me finish. Similar to Nostradamus predictions, which, while fanciful and intriguing, are nothing but unprovable, unreliable fiction. Okay?
Okay, let's also acknowledge first right off that all predictions of the future can only be verified by hindsight. Right?
That's true.
You can't verify prediction before it occurs. so taking that aside, that's a valid criticism.
which is the name of your website, wants money for any information. They're just panhandling on the net, not worth their salt for my $10. Any credible site wishing to help humanity by having some brilliant and insightful knowledge of future events surely wouldn't be asking for money in return. These folks seem like charlatans. They only want your money. Wait, that sounds like the government.
Well, we're not in competition with